Hey guys, it's Trail over at goHUNT. I'm back again answering most commonly asked questions to apply, this time in the state of Utah. So Utah's draw is actually coming up. If you plan to hunt, you want to draw a permit in Utah, now's the time to start thinking and planning and preparing to draw a permit. That application starts March 23rd, and the deadline for applying in Utah is going to be April 27th by 11 p.m. So you want to be aware you've basically got the next month or so to make your applications and put those in for the state of Utah. So I want to cover some of the most commonly asked questions that we get and hopefully help you guys put together a better strategy for applying in the state of Utah this year. One of the most common questions that we get is how old do you have to be to apply in the state of Utah? And there's a little bit of, an anomaly there. You can apply for hunts when you're 11 in the state of Utah, as long as you will turn 12 by the end of the year. So by December 31st, as long as you turn 12, you can apply for bonus points, preference points, but you cannot hunt until you're 12. So for example, if you applied for a hunt in the upcoming draw, you could be 11. You could hunt if you turn 12 by the start of your hunt date. But like I said, for those of you that are 11, you can build points. You also have to have hunter's education. So that's another requirement of applying and obtaining a hunting permit in the state of Utah. So be aware that you do have to have a hunter's education. That can be from any state. So we accept all states' hunter's education as long as you've completed that course in some other state that is going to apply to applying in the state of Utah. Another commonly asked question we get is, do you have to buy a hunting license in order to apply for hunts in Utah? And that is the case. You have to buy a hunting license in order to apply. You do not have to front the cost of the permit fees that you apply for. So it's typically one or the other, depending on the various western states. New Mexico, for example, requires you to front the cost of the permits. Utah is not that way. You only have to buy the hunting license. You can then apply, and you will only be charged the cost of the permit should you be successful in the draw. Now, the cost of the hunting license in Utah is relatively cheap, to be honest, when you compare that to a lot of other western states. The cost is only going to be $72 for adults as a non-resident and $38 as a resident in Utah. When you apply, you will have to pay an application fee per species that you apply for. Again, it's relatively cheap for a resident. It's going to be $10 per species when you apply. Non-residents are going to pay $15, so it's $5 extras for non-residents. So those are the costs that you're going to incur as you start to apply for in the state of Utah. The next question is what species can you apply for? And it is a little bit different for residents and non-residents. Non-residents can apply for any and all species that they want in the state of Utah. So that includes general season deer, dedicated hunter deer, limited entry deer, limited entry elk, limited entry antelope, moose, sheep, goat, and bison. So that has a bunch of different species that you could potentially apply for and even draw permits in the state of Utah. Residents have to pick and choose what they apply for. So a resident of Utah can only apply for one limited entry species a year. So that would be limited entry deer, limited entry elk, limited entry antelope. They have to pick one of those species. They can also pick one once in a lifetime species, and those species are going to be moose, mountain goat, sheep, and bison. A resident can't apply for all those in the same year. They have to pick one and apply for it. A resident can apply for both general season deer and dedicated hunter deer. Those are two separate drawings. They have two separate point systems, which I'm going to talk about here in a sec. But like I said, be aware, non-residents, you can apply and build points for any and all species that you're interested in. Residents have to pick and choose one limited entry species, one once in a lifetime species, general season deer, and dedicated hunter deer should they choose. Next question we're going to dive into is how do the point systems work in Utah? And Utah has two different point systems. You have preference points, which apply to general season deer and dedicated hunter deer. And those preference point systems are true preference point system, meaning that the people that apply with the most preference points are going to be guaranteed those permits. So it's a true preference point similar to deer or elk in the state of Colorado. It's a true preference point system for those two deer opportunities, general season deer, dedicated hunter deer. Utah utilizes a bonus point system for moose, sheep, goat, bison, and then limited entry species, limited entry elk, limited entry deer, limited entry antelope. So Utah's bonus point system is a little bit different than some of the other bonus point system states. Utah actually splits the number of permits that they allocate for each hunt, and they're going to offer half of those permits to the people with the most bonus points that apply for any given hunt. The other 50% of those permits are going to be randomly allocated with weight given to the number of bonus points that you have. So what that means is that if you apply for a limited entry elk hunt or a limited entry deer hunt, or even a once in a lifetime species like moose or sheep, you have a chance in the draw provided there's one permit. It's going to be randomly allocated. Like I said, 50% are going to be randomly allocated with weight given to the number of bonus points that you have. So you do have a chance. Now, once again, with weight given to those bonus points, statistically, the more bonus points you have, the better your random odds are as well. So it is kind of a hybrid system when it comes to those limited entry species and once in a lifetime species. It's a little bit complex, but you do some reading, you check out the state rules and regs section or the application strategy article, and you'll see that it's actually not too bad to tease through. But like I said, bonus point system for limited entry species, once a lifetime species, and a preference point system for general season deer and dedicated hunter deer. So 2 different point systems. I've talked a lot about dedicated hunter deer and what that is, and I often get asked about the dedicated hunter program for deer in the state of Utah. Essentially what this program is it gives you the opportunity to hunt general season deer units. You do have to apply for a unit when you apply. Essentially, what it allows you to do is to guarantee yourself 2 bucks, so you can kill 2 bucks in a 3-year period, and you also get to hunt all seasons. So you get to hunt archery, muzzleloader, and rifle seasons on the unit that you drew. So it's a neat opportunity. You actually get to hunt a lot. You get to be selective. You get to look over a lot of deer and potentially a lot of different bucks until you have the opportunity to fill your tag. Like I said, 2 bucks in 3-year period you can harvest. In exchange for that, you're going to have to pay the cost, which is a higher cost, especially for a non-resident. And you're also going to have to do 32 service hours for the Division of Wildlife Resources. It's actually a pretty cool program because it allows you to get out on the ground, do some habitat work, maybe potentially build a guzzler or some fence. So it's actually a pretty neat program, and I would highly suggest it if you live close to Utah or if you're a resident of Utah and you have the opportunity to get out, do some service hours. And like I said, it's a great way to essentially draw into a program and guarantee yourself deer tags over a 3-year period. So I would highly suggest checking that out. The next most commonly asked question is about hunt choices and how Utah considers choices in the draw. So when you apply, you're going to have opportunity to select multiple choices when you make your selection. But Utah is not going to consider all of your choices before moving to the next applicant, like a state like Nevada or New Mexico does. In essence, what they're going to do is consider everybody's first choice before they move to any applicant's second choice. So in essence, to draw a tag as a second choice, there would have to be leftover permits after every applicant's first choice is considered. So drawing permits as a second choice, it really isn't that feasible in the state of Utah. Almost all the permits are going to be allocated to people as a first choice. You can check out your odds within your goHUNT Insider account to look at odds as a second choice. It may really only be applicable to general season deer, but even that's getting much more harder to draw. In essence, your first choice is the one that matters. So really you need to apply for the hunt that you would like to draw as your first choice. The last thing I would touch on in regards to points, whether it's bonus points or preference points, especially for bonus points, people often ask, can I just apply for a point only, whether it's a preference point or a bonus point? And you do have that option. I will tell you, for any species that is allocated under the bonus point system, so limited entry species, limited entry hunts, or once in a lifetime hunts, do not apply for bonus points only. Apply for hunts, because like I said, 50% of those permits are going to be randomly allocated, and you never know when lightning might strike and you might draw the permit of a lifetime. So the only reason I would tell somebody not to apply for a limited entry hunt or a once in a lifetime species is if you cannot afford the cost of the tag should you draw it or the time off to hunt. Like I said, if you do not draw in the draw for a hunt that you applied for, you're going to gain a bonus point. So like I said, don't apply for bonus points, apply for hunts. Hopefully you get lucky in the draw. The next most commonly asked question we get is about applying as a group. So in Utah, you can apply as a group. Non-residents and residents can apply in the same group. In that situation, should the group draw, the non-resident permits will come out of the non-resident permit quota. So you want to be aware of that when you apply. You want to make sure that there's enough permits in the non-resident quota to actually satisfy the size of your group should you draw. So you want to be aware of that. In a lot of cases, there may not be, especially when you're looking for highly sought after hunts like elk. Groups of 4 can apply for general season deer and limited entry species. There's not group applications for once in a lifetime species. We get asked about how the point system works for group applications. And the way Utah handles that is that they're going to average the point total of the group, and they're actually going to round that down to the nearest whole number. So it's not a round up, it's actually a round down, and it's averaged of the groups. You want to be aware of that when you apply. Typically, I would advise people, not to apply as a group in the state of Utah unless, there's the potential that somebody has more points than you, and, you're going to kind of piggyback their points and then potentially bump, your chances of drawing, which does happen. For the most part, I would say though, look at the permit numbers, look at the odds, and if it doesn't make sense to apply as a group, don't apply as a group. Utah will not over allocate the number of permits that they have set aside for that hunt to satisfy your group. So if your application is the last one pulled, you're a group of 2 and there's only 1 permit remaining, they're not going to allocate both of the people on that application a group. They're just going to skip your application and move to the next single applicant. So like I said, be aware of that. There is some nuances to applying as a group. You want to be aware of it should you decide to. Another common question that we're getting a lot about the state of Utah this year is in regard to limited entry elk. And that's because Utah just went through a new 10-year plan, which will run, now for the next 10 years. And they did make some adjustments to the way the permits are allocated. So they implemented some new seasons. So there's an October rifle season now. There's also going to be some late archery hunts. So they've created some seasons, and they've also changed the quotas or the splits of permits through those different seasons. Now, previously, Utah's draw happened in March, and you didn't have the chance to actually look at the number of permits that were going to be allocated in each hunt. The reason that they moved the draw back into the late April this year is to give applicants the opportunity now to look at the recommendations of permits that are going to be given to each hunt. So early April, coming the early part of April, the division is going to publish those. So people are going to be able to see the proposed number of permits for each hunt. You want to be aware of that. You definitely want to be aware of that if you've got a lot of points. If you're on the cusp of potentially having enough points to draw a limited entry elk tag, you want to pay very close attention to the number of permits that are allocated for the hunts that you are looking at to see if it's less than what was allocated last year, because that is going to impact point creep and your chances of drawing an elk permit. So be aware of that. Take a look at the individual hunts. And like I said, look for those recommendations in tag proposals coming from the Division of Wildlife in early April. Another commonly asked question we get is, can you surrender a permit should you not be able to go on a hunt that you drew? And you can in the state of Utah. There are some nuances about that. You must surrender your permit at least 30 days prior to opening day of your hunt. And then if you do that, you will actually be given your points back. If you surrender your permit within that 30-day window before your hunt, you actually will not get your points back. So you want to be aware of that. I highly suggest if you draw a permit in Utah, move heaven and earth to make that hunt happen, because those tags don't come around all that often. It is an option. I wouldn't recommend it. The last question that we get are there over-the-counter hunt opportunities in the state of Utah? And there absolutely are for elk. There aren't over-the-counter permits for any other species, including deer, but for elk, there actually are pretty good over-the-counter tags available in the state of Utah. Before I get started too far down into what those hunts are, I should tell you when they go on sale so that you can be aware of that. So the archery hunts, the archery will allow you to hunt any bull and spike units. Those are going to go on sale July 11th. The any weapon, any bull hunts are going to go on sale on July 13th. And the spike, rifle, or any weapon permits are going to go on sale on July 20th. So 3 different dates. Like I said, archery, July 11th, any bull, July 13th, and spike, July 20th. So you want to be aware of that. Now, I talked about 2 different types of hunts, any bull and spike. So Utah does have any bull units in the state of Utah. They're typically not good trophy units. They often don't have the highest elk populations, and they can be really tough hunts. Utah actually did open additional hunts this year and made them any bull units. Those units were previously limited entry units that weren't meeting objective for limited entry type of hunts. So they actually made those any bull units, and they might actually be decent this year. They're probably not going to be for too much longer. So if you plan on hunting one of those units, I would encourage you to get out and do it in 2023. So like I said, 3 or 4 different types of hunts for any bull units. You're going to have archery. Archery, like I said, allows you to hunt spike and any bull units. You're going to have an early rifle hunt. There are 15,000 permits available for that early rifle hunt. Those are going to sell out within the first few days of that coming available July 13th, like I said. So if you want to buy one of those early season any bull rifle tags, you want to get on it in the first few days that they go on sale. There's also going to be a late rifle hunt on those any bull units. The number of permits for that hunt are unlimited. So you can show up anytime, pick up a permit, and plan on going that late hunt. But like I said, that might be a very tough hunt because most of the units don't have a lot of elk in general. The other type of opportunity that I mentioned was spike elk. So spike elk hunts occur on the limited entry elk units in the state of Utah. It's a great opportunity to get out and look at some of the best bulls in the West, and then gives you the ability to harvest a spike on those limited entry units. Like I said, those are going to go on sale on July 20th. The archery hunt allows you to hunt any bull or spike units. There's also going to be a rifle hunt on those spike units. There's 15,000 permits. Again, those are going to sell out quickly. So if you want to buy a spike tag, you absolutely should do so within the first few days that those go on sale. That's the best advice I can give you. If you decide to hunt over-the-counter elk units in the state of Utah, plan on buying those permits early because they have increasingly become more popular and they will sell out. One last note I would include when it comes to the any bull units is that those permits are actually unlimited for youth. So your kids, you want to get them into the field, get them an opportunity to get out and chase bull elk on those any bull units. Those are unlimited, so check out that opportunity. So those are the most commonly asked questions we get for applying in the state of Utah. If I didn't answer your question or you've got additional questions, feel free to drop those in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer those. Utah is a great state to hunt, and right now is the time to do your research. For those of you that are not goHUNT insiders, I would highly suggest you get yourself an insider research account so that you can find the information to make the most of your applications this spring. I have a special code if you want to use the code TRAIL, that's TRAIL. We're going to give you 50 points back in the goHUNT gear shop. 1 point is $1, so that's $50 you can use towards the purchase of any gear in the gear shop when you sign up for a goHUNT Insider account. So like I said, use the code TRAIL. Utah's a great state. Application is coming up. Deadline April 27th at 11 p.m.